So glad to see you all. Yes, I'm Martha Brown. I'm a lecturer and internship coordinator at NC State University. And first I wanted to say, if any of my students, I've seen one of you, any of my 286 students on here, shoot me a private message so I can make sure and notate that you were here. It is my very, very great honor to introduce our speaker today, Laura Waters Brown. I have the privilege of working with Laura with the collective, Wasserman's collective think tank, and we are trying and succeeding on many fronts of doing great things for women in sport and entertainment. A real quick rundown on Laura. She's responsible for the day-to-day relationship development, strategic planning, and project coordination of the collective think tank, which is a global consortium of academics, brands, and properties committed to using research to make sustainable progress for women in sports. Laura has also worked for the PGA Tour, the Players Championship, as well as the Cleveland Browns. So I won't hold that against her. As a Pittsburgh girl, not going to hold that against her. But Laura has some incredible things to share with you all. And so without further ado, Laura Waters Brown, y'all.
Thank you, Martha. And, I would like to think that a majority, and this is not proven, I know we're back in academia world, and this is where data and insights kind of take off. But I would like to believe that all great paths in sports come through Cleveland at some point in time in their career. We're just made different. You're made different. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Martha knows this about me. I'm not the traditional presenter speaker person. So I heard that this was a conversation. And so that's what I want to have today. And so I know we had cameras on a bit for a photo, but if you are open and comfortable, I would love to see your faces if possible. One, because I need to know if my jokes hit. But more importantly, I want to have a conversation with you because one, I think in this world, too many people talk at you and just use they just communicate and talk at you. And I don't believe in that learning style. I think that all of us learn through conversation. And so I want to have a conversation with you today. So I am not a professor. I actually went on a tangent of trying to apologize to all of my past professors because I know I was a horrible student. But I will ask questions because, again, I want to engage with you. And I know it's early in the morning, but it's earlier for me right now as I forgot the time change. So it's like 8 o'clock the day after NSF. So we'll get started real quick. Cool vibes. Does that work? Yeah, cool.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you got a little bit about my background. I won't bore you with that, and we've got a quick 50 minutes, so we'll get through things. Excuse me. So my name is Laura Waters Brown. Been in the sports industry now for 10, 12, 13 years, 10, something like that. And I have been across the myriad of spaces, digital and social, football. I worked for the Cleveland Browns for 3 years, the tour for 5 years. Both of those very traditionally male heavy focused sports, but not also on the playing field, but also in the front office. And so I've learned a lot of things throughout the years, just from my own personal experiences, and I'm still learning, which is a key part of this equity journey. And so we gave my session a dope title today because I feel like, you need dope titles in order to set the stage so you guys kind of know what my vibe is. And so we're calling today the fight for gender equity is a 50-50 split, get in where you fit in. So what I want to do today is go through kind of some stats and facts, some information, but I want to hear from you on what you feel and think gender equity is, what it looks like, and how you play a part in it. Okay. And I wrote down notes. I never use notes for presentation. I came with the heat today. Martha. I came with the heat today. So the first things backing up. Martha mentioned the National Sports Forum Conference. So I'm currently at the National Sports Forum Conference, which is an annual conference of sports industry executives from around the country. Literally somebody from every organization is here. And they come together to share best practices, to network, to share insights, to connect, to make deals, quite honestly, because the sport industry is so small, so small. I don't know how many people I ran into that said, oh, I'm now at the Ravens, or I'm at the Ravens and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, Sashi Brown was just named the big boss over there. Have you met him yet? I worked with Sashi back when he's Cleveland, and now he's head of all the things at the Ravens, right? And so my relationship with Sashi opened up a conversation with the door for 2 new colleagues that I now have at the Ravens. So I'm at the conference, so I apologize in advance for my voice. It has been 4 strong days of networking. One of those days, we actually have a session called the Business of Diversity in Sport and Entertainment, where we invite 32 mid to upper executives that identify as a woman or a person of color, or anything labeled in the U.S. Census as a minority, and bring them to the conference. Because what we found, I've been doing this conference since 13 years. What we found is that over the years, everybody looked the same as the conference. The founders called, they said they woke up one day, looked around and said it looked old and pale and male. And so they said we needed to do something about it. And so they created BDSE. And one of the barriers to entry here is the badge. It's $1,500 for a badge. And we all were like, ain't nobody paying $1,500 to come to a place they know nothing about. So we need to do something. So they created BDSE. They gave out 32 badges or scholarships every single year for people to come. We do programming on one day and then release them into the conference. So that's my spiel on NSF. If you have other questions, I'm happy to answer those later. But as we get into this space of DE&I, specifically with gender equity, I want to level set. Does anyone know the difference between equity and equality? Oh, I will pick a square. I will pick a square. Anyone?
I would say, I would say, here, let me turn my camera on. I would say equality would be kind of everyone is like on the same ground. Everyone gets the same things all around. And then equity, it would kind of be more individualized and accommodated to each person.
Exactly. That's a perfect explanation. Thank you, Samuel. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yes, that's exactly correct. And so that's why we use the word equity, not equality, because equality, again, everybody doesn't need the same things from everybody in order to make it a fair playing field. Equity says, I'm giving you exactly what you need in order to have the same opportunities as everybody else. And so in this space, I want to just level set, because I think that word can get interchanged. And they have 2 very different meanings. So we're going with equity. And so the first things first, I wanted to share, I can share my screen, right? I want to share a couple of stats with you to see. I want to get your thoughts on these. All right. Share screen. Okay, can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yep, cool.
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So I pulled these stats from a presentation I did, so ignore the top part, but really focus on the stats. So I work at the Collective, and we focus on gender equity and fairness for women in sports, music, and entertainment across the board. And what that really means is we are coming to the table with solutions on how not only we can create equity in the sports for the front-facing side, so the talent side, but also on the business side, and as well with the consumer. So we all know that women have existed since the beginning of time, and yet for some reason we're oftentimes seen as an afterthought or a less than or an other, for no other reason than it's more convenient. And what we do is bring stats and facts into the conversation. And so I pulled some of these slides, and I'll read a few of them, but I want to get your take on these. So women drive 85% of all household spend, yet no one is paying attention to that and gearing their marketing towards them. You're starting to see a shift now over the past few years. I think, especially this year, in regards to ethnicity and race, but you're still seeing a lot of men, a lot of male energy marketing in the industry. And we know from research, 2/3 of the wealth in the US will be owned by women by 2030. What year is it? It's 2022. That's in 8 years. 8 years. And so what that means is with money comes power. And with that shift in the industry, that means there are going to be more women in the marketplace that are controlling the dollar. And what happens when I control the dollar and know I have nowhere to spend my money? As a business, as an organization, we have to do better at that, because at the end of the day, in order to exist, you need to make money. And if I want to make money, I want to go to the people who are going to spend the money. And that's women. But I can't just wake up and say, I want your money, because we also know that this generation, y'all, sorry, I'm from Ohio. I use y'all. I apologize. You all want change, and you want to be spoken to how you want to be spoken to, when you want to be spoken to, where. And oh, by the way, my entire friend group, you need to talk to all of them individually as well. But the caveat is this generation is naturally just more diverse. And so that means you have a friend in the group who likes hiking. You got somebody who likes pickleball. You like somebody who does crochet, and you all want to experience life together. And so when we talk about marketing and gender equity, we're talking about playing into a market or a group of people who have naturally seen diversity and been more open to equity from day one, because there are more Gen Z buyers coming into the economy, but also into the workforce. I think I saw a stat that this is the first time there are 5 generations in the actual workforce right now. That's a lot of hard conversations, because I guarantee you the young people coming in, the Gen Zers coming into the workforce, do not see the world the same way as the 90-year-old CEO who's been wearing the exact same brand, color, and type of suit with a white shirt for his whole life, right? And so how do we close the gap? There's a whole lot in there. When it comes to diversity and equity, and I just focus on the gender equity portion of it. At Wasserman, I have a teammate who focuses more on the overall DE&I, but I just focus on the women. And so another stat that sticks out to me on this is, let's see, women are estimated to control about $40 trillion in consumer spending. Again, these are all reasons why the market should pay attention. And as you're going into business, or you're going into the workforce, like, pay attention. We have there's a fun kind of phrase or idiom that we like to use, and in relation to a lot of ideas around marketing towards women, and it's pink it, like shrink it and pink it. They're not going to design it for women. They're just going to shrink down a men's version of the shirt, call it pink. And if it's a certain organization, they may put some rhinestones on it and bedazzle it. I'm 35. I'm not wearing rhinestones ever again, but I'm just not. I shouldn't say never, because I feel like there could be a situation where the right type of bedazzling could come into play. So I won't say never. But if I have this money, if I'm part of this generational shift of money, of money and power, and I want to go shopping, and I want to experience life, and I want to do these things, but no one is opening that opportunity for me, there's going to be a lack in the economy and the overall consumer buying. And so we pull these stats to negate those questions about why women. Why do I need to adjust my marketing strategy towards women? Well, here you go, because numbers don't lie. We always find in the conversation around diversity, equity, inclusion, that a lot of times people say that it is the feel good thing, right? Like you should do it because you should do it. And that is absolutely correct. Equity should be equity for all because it is the right thing to do. However, it is now a smart business case. And to not pay attention to it says that you don't want to do smart business. And I don't know any successful business people who don't want to do smart business, right? And it's not that difficult. It really is not that difficult to adjust your marketing, to adjust your conversation, to adjust your strategy, to focus on women. Because you know what happens? When Tom Brady goes from one team to the other, the marketing strategy adjusts in that new city. So it can be done, right? And so the other stats that I wanted to pull up too, because I think these are really powerful, speaks more to the overall generation and the brand values of this generation. 81% of millennials, that's me, expect their preferred companies to make public declarations of corporate citizenship. I want to know where I'm spending my money, and I want to know what you're doing with my money. Because if you're in this industry not to make the world a better place and you're just sucking up air and space, I can go somewhere else and spend my money. 81% of people care. That's a huge number. So when you see companies starting to make these more, they make their statements and their words, which are great, totally great. But we also now need to see action follow up, right? Because 81% of millennials are paying attention to those statements. Let's see, 70% of millennials are more likely to choose one brand over another brand that demonstrates inclusion and diversity in terms of promotions and offers. Again, the numbers don't lie. All of these numbers are over 50%. And I won't read them because you all are in higher education. So by default, I know you can read. But brands are no longer being allowed to just sit back and color things and just make them pink and to sorry, let me stop sharing my screen. It's no longer okay to just put out and market the same to all. We market to women now, and Women's History Month. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. Whoop, whoop. It's not okay to just market to Black people during Black History Month or Hispanic people during Hispanic Heritage Month. No, you need to talk to them the whole year. And the same thing with women. Talk to us the entire year. Sorry, I got off on my tangent because I was at NSF and it was a hot conversation, so I apologize. I'm gonna bring it back. I'll bring it back because I have notes. Okay, so gave you some stats. And so I think a lot of times in this conversation, people ask yourself, what are some things that I can do to help create an equitable world when it comes to women's sports? And the thing for this session is a lot of times we put the onus of change on those that are oppressed or those that are in the group that it's most affected by. So in this case, women. And it is not up to women to fix this issue. And so that's why we say this is a 50-50 split and get in where you fit in, because guys, you play just as important role in this space as we do. And so what I want to do is give you tangible things that you can take back to affect change where you are now. Because here's the thing, it's important to realize that you don't have to be US Soccer and reach a huge settlement for women's equal pay, right? To make change. You can make change in your friend group and in your community and in your school and in your classroom right now. And so those are the things I want to make sure you have when you leave here. Vibes? Still with me? Cool. So here's some things that you can do to help create a more equitable world. Actually, I take that back. Question and answer. What are some things that you think that you in your daily life, like what are things that you think that you can do to create gender equity? Oh, I'm a pro at the stare and wait. Really? Nobody knows? Are we still chill? Is it Thursday? It's Thursday. Okay. I'm gonna give you all a pass for now. But I'm coming back. The first thing that we can do is amplify women's voices. So for example, at Wasserman, we represent talent both in front of the camera and behind the camera. And so, for example, we have a few agents in the collective portion of our talent representation who only represent women athletes. That is it. And they represent some top, I was going to use another word, but they represent some really great women athletes. Anybody ever heard of, I don't know, Sue Bird? Is that a thing? Have you heard of Sue Bird? Have you heard of Megan Rapinoe? Yeah. Have you heard of Nneka Ogwumike?
Yeah.
So for those that who have not, those are some of our top clients here. And that, one of my faves, Maya Moore, she's on our roster. And so what I want you to do is, if you don't know who those people are, Google them, because those are game changers in the world of equity in sport. Nneka Ogwumike led the WNBA PA last year before 2019, when the world caught on to all of the work that they were doing towards racial equity and also in social justice. And I choose my words very carefully, because I use the phrase "when the world caught on," because women in the WNBA have been doing that for years. But it wasn't until LeBron and them, love LeBron, he's from Ohio, love him. But it wasn't until LeBron and them started wearing shirts and having the conversation did the media start picking up. And now it's a huge thing, right? But let's give women their due when it's needed, because part of what you can do to create an equitable world is to amplify women's voices. Okay. And what does that look like? What that looks like is, if I'm a guy, Sarah just said that, or Sarah's been doing this for the last 15 minutes. Is anyone going to listen? Amplifying voices. You don't need to know all the things and do all the things. You just find the people that do and lift their voices. It's very simple. One of the great examples that I like to give, because I'm so proud of it, we had a play in it, is Paige Becker's speech at the ESPYs. Did anybody see it? Yeah, Devin, did you watch it?
Yeah, I saw her speaking.
So Paige Beckers came into the industry. For those that don't know, she's one of the top women athletes in college basketball right now. And she's one of ours because why? We represent top women in sports. It's a 5. But she gave an amazing speech at the ESPY centered around lifting the voices of her Black women teammates and her colleagues in the sport of women's basketball, because she realized that, one, she had a platform and she had an opportunity, and there was a disparity in something not right. And so what she did was she used the moment to amplify and lift voices of the Black women in the WNBA, who make up more than 80% of the league and get less than 20% of the recognitions and the mentions in the social media, right? She used her privilege in that moment to say, this is not right. Here are some stats and facts, because that's how we approach things. And so what we did was we provided her stats and facts and information and tidbits that she can use in her speech to do what? Amplify women's voices and amplify others' voices. And that's something that we all can do in our situations of privilege. We all have some form of privilege at some point. But when you have an opportunity to say, hey, these people, this person is doing really great work, you should pay attention to it. You should do that, because that's how we're going to create change. Is we need more voices at the table. And in this case, with equity for women, that's something that you can do. I saw a comment in the chat. This makes me excited. Okay. Another great one, Amber mentioned, watch and attend more women's sport events. How many of you have been to a women's sporting event in the past year?
I
have.
Yeah. Dope. Now, if this call would have been, I think maybe, I'll give it 5 years ago, not that long ago, 5 years ago, I would say it would be less than 20%. Because there, again, we're seeing the generational shift. Your generation is like, it's sports. It's not women's sports, it's sports. It's not men's sports, it's sports, which is the way we need to start seeing the lens. So that's something that you can do to create a more equitable, because why? Your attendance and your watching of that sport, you count as a impression, a person, a view. And in order for women's sport to get invested into, which is what another option to do is to invest in women's sports. In order for media, in order for organizations, companies to invest in women's sport, they need the viewership and they need the engagement and they need the numbers, right? Because it is like a circle of nonsense. Because we say that women's sports deserves equity and fairness, which is indeed true. Then we say, put women's sports on TV. Then we hear that no one wants to watch women's sports, which is not true. Because how can you watch something if you don't have the opportunity to watch it? You got to put it on TV to even see if people want to watch it, right? And there's actually a stat that I pulled because I do research sometimes. There's a stat that of some research that we did out of EMEA in the UK that said 88% of people that they surveyed wanted to watch more women's soccer. 88%, they want to watch it, right? And so unless the demand in the market says, hey, ESPN, I want to see more women's sports on ESPN, not ESPNW. ESPN has no reason to change because why? They need to adhere to the market, to what their viewers want. So speak up. I am a firm believer in the ad. The ad symbol on Twitter will change the world. Tag them. Why aren't women's sports on TV? Bleacher Report. Why aren't women's sports on your main page? Why are they not even your navigation? I want you all, I don't know if I can give out homework, but I am going to give out homework. I'm not going to grade it, but it is what it is. I want you to go to your favorite sport websites, and I want you to take a look at the top bar. And I want you to see, do they even put WNBA in the headline? Or do they just put NBA? In the marketing conversation, when people, you saw this with March Madness in college basketball. Now it's March Madness. Before it was March Madness equated to men's basketball, but then you had women's, like basketball is basketball. I can guarantee you some of y'all guys on here can get buckets from me. I will give them out, right? But I have a whole other subset in the market. Why? Why do I have to? It's a sport. So we elevate or amplify women's voices. We attend women's sporting events. We need to engage and view and demand that our media and our content creators give us more women's sports. Because if you are, I'm not just saying this because I'm a former washed up athlete, but if you actually know the game and you know the sport and you appreciate the talent that it takes to do it, the women's game is actually better. I'm not going to lie. It is. But those are my humble thoughts on that. I apologize if you think otherwise. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments around this so far? Are y'all getting like amped up? Because I typically get amped up when I start having this conversation, if you haven't figured that out. Because I think there's so many little things that we all can do to make this right. I think that when we talk about, go back to the media conversation, because so much about this is about money and the dollar signs, right? We want to say we cannot pay women equal because they don't make enough money. Yet you refuse to put them on TV. You refuse to invest in them. You refuse to talk to their demographic and market and put the resources into the product. So you want us to climb up the hill with an elephant on our backs, and still don't give us a chance, right? Like, so when we talk about equity, the difference between equity and equality, it's not, okay, just put them on TV and we're going to put them on right after the late night QVC show, right? Put them on at the same time, 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. Women's sports doesn't need to just be on at 7 a.m. on Saturday mornings. How are they going to grow an audience if they don't get the opportunity to be in the sports viewership funnel, right? On Sundays in the fall, what does everyone do in these great United States of America? What do you do on Sunday afternoon, or Sunday, I should say, in the fall?
Watch football.
You watch football, right? Because that's part, you understand, you've been programmed to know on Sunday, you watch football, and then football said, well, that we need more media dollars. And then what happened? What do you do on Monday?
Watch football.
You watch football. And then they said, you know what? Yeah, but like, is it really, can we really make it 5 more days without watching more football? We cannot. So what do we do on Thursday? You watch football.
Ball again.
3 days out of the week, football. When is the WNBA, when do they air?
In the summer?
What day? Exactly. So when we talk about equity and we talk about fairness, when we want to get a community, a group of people, in this case, women, to an equitable level, we have to realize all of the barriers we're putting in place of them or in front of them to get there, and then remove them. So when you all go into the workforce, or you all go to read your local school's newspaper or the media coverage of your sports teams, ask these questions. You know what? Why don't we commit to putting women's sports on the front page of the paper all semester? Put the content out there. The stories are amazing. Put the content out there and let your audience decide. Okay, we got a couple of questions in the chat. Thoughts on Malika Andrews and Maria Taylor? I make it my business not to comment on other people's business, especially when it's recorded. Let's see, U.S. women's tennis has way more equity than the men's because of the Williams sister. Now that they are retiring, it will be interesting to see what happens. Andrea, because you said no question, just saying, but let's dig into that thought. Why do you think, one, have you heard of Billie Jean King? Anybody heard of Billie?
I have.
Right. Okay. So before the Williams sisters, there was Billie Jean King. She flipped the coin at the Super Bowl. But she did this thing a long time ago. I shouldn't say long time ago, wasn't that long ago, but she did this thing before cell phones were created, where she did it was called, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, it was like it was a battle of the sexes, right? She had, one of the top men's players basically said that she couldn't beat him because she should be in the kitchen cooking. Not every woman can cook, fellas. I'm just letting y'all know that right here, right now. Okay, not all women can cook, and not all women's cooking skills are created equally. So do not make that an expectation. You have 2 hands. But she played him and whooped his, you know what, on the national news. It's on the front page paper and all these articles, right? And so women have been doing this, excuse my language, professor, I apologize. Women have been doing the damn thing since the beginning of time. No one tells a story. So if you never hear about it, it didn't happen. So again, the media plays a big role in this. You have to tell these amazing stories. The Williams sisters, yes, great. If you haven't seen the little movie about them with my guy, Will, I strongly encourage you to watch it because it is so dynamic, and just the thought process there, that's a whole other conversation. I could go down a whole hill with the Williams sisters. But when you look at tennis and you think about equity, I want you to remember Serena Williams was ostracized in the media because she questioned a referee who questioned her integrity. Okay. Shortly thereafter, a male athlete broke his racket, cussing up a storm, and all of a sudden, it's passion. It's passion. So what you're telling me is as a woman, I don't have the right to speak up and use my voice. She didn't cuss. She said she wasn't even fighting about the game. She was fighting about her integrity was being questioned. She was playing for something higher than herself. And this man came at her and said, no, you're a liar. And Think about on this world stage of professional sports. He could have said, you know what, sis, that ball was out. And she would have got mad and kept moving. He questioned her integrity. And the world said, the media saw a woman, they saw a Black woman using her voice and pinned her as angry. Why? We have to remove the stereotypes that equate emotion to anger. Me speaking in a sentence with the same English words that you use in a direct phrase that gets directly to a point is not me being I'm speaking. And so we have to remove those biases and those shifts in the media. And so, yes, tennis is doing a lot, but we have to, at the same time where we say, yes, tennis has come this far, sport has come this far, we still have a long way to go. Because when the best woman athlete in the world, when the best athlete, I'm gonna put it out there, when the best athlete, Serena Williams, the best athlete comes into a match, into her workplace and says, hey, workplace, I need to wear this specific type of suit so that I can be healthy, so that I can give you the best product on the court. And they say, no, you can't do that. That's not fair. Sorry, I went on my Serena tangent. I apologize. We can go on this. I know I only have 10 more minutes. Dion, you had a question. Your hand's up.
Yes, hi, I'm Dion from Wingate University. I was just going to ask, so you're at an internship, you're at an agency / firm right now, and are y'all basically only looking for the top female clients?
No, so Wasserman as a whole represents athletes, all athletes, male, female, and non-binary. We represent everybody. But what we also know is that in the market of sports, a lot of times agents focus on football or NBA, right? There are women athletes who need representation too. And so we have agents who have said, I only want to work with women athletes because women deserve to be treated fairly and equitable. And so we represent both.
What is the agency called?
Wasserman.
Wasserman.
Mm-hmm. Is it Charisma? Did I say that correctly? Is it Charisma or Charisma Ann?
I prefer Charisma.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm from NC State. And just going back to the Serena Williams kind of example that you gave, do you think the women's, when it comes to women showing emotion, do you think the stereotype of that kind of being angry, when on the men's side it's more of just it's emotion, it's passion for the game, do you think that's something that will kind of change in the near future? Or do you think there's anything that we could kind of do to get over that hump of believing that women can't show emotion or passion for the game without it being oh, she's so angry she can't show emotion?
Yeah, well, I think it'll change. I think it will change because women are, like I said earlier, the 2/3 of the world's wealth will be held by women in less than 10 years. So more women in the office, in the front office, more women in the game, more women behind the cameras, more women making the business decisions. It's going to change because more women are going to be she's not angry. She's yelling. It's sport. It's competitive. Go to the local YMCA and at 7 a.m. and watch the people play basketball up there. I hear more F-bombs before 8 a.m. on the basketball court than I do at the bar playing basketball. So I think it will change. As far as your second part of your question, what you can do is just call it out. That's the thing, is you have to confront it head on. And in that moment, say exactly that. She's not angry. She's passionate. Why is it one thing and another based on gender? And just speak up. And again, I can't say this enough. That little @ symbol on the Twitter and the Instagram does wonders. It does wonders. Melissa.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Bass-Knight, Fayetteville State University. I know that now when there was a league, actually my sister played in the NWBA. There was a team called the Virginia Express. At that particular time, the league did not have the backing from the NBA. So the league folded after a few years. Then they came with the NWBA, and which had the backing of the NBA. And speaking on like what you said with the females or the women not getting the recognition, we have a shorter time span as far as their league is concerned. Selling of the arenas, big difference in salary cap, but also looking at how do they, or as far as endorsements, I know that plays a lot, but if they already have the backing of the NBA, what things do you think that the NBA could do to help push them to try to get those arenas sold out? Or, I know the endorsements are different, but, I'm just looking at what is it that they can do with the WNBA so that they can at least start kind of getting on that level with the NBA. I mean, the crowds are just different, and when it comes to especially basketball.
Yeah.
So
That's a great question. It's funny because I used to be I was the weird ball girl in the big t-shirt back when the Columbus Quest was a thing, and they were playing in the what was it called before the WNBA. So I completely hear you on that. I think the first thing that not only the NBA, and we're starting to see brands, you saw the $75 million investment in women in WNBA, is put money in the office, because it's quite hard to market a team when you only have 2 people in the marketing department. So you have to give them the resources. I think that's the first thing. And then I think as far as what can the other things that the NBA can do, I would say look at soccer. Look at soccer here in the US, because you're seeing organizations like a Houston Dynamo Dash who are approaching the market with this one club approach in marketing. And so they go to the community with the Houston Dynamo Dash. It's not, we're marketing the Houston Dynamo versus the Dash. This is football. This is soccer. This is the same product. It's just, do you want to come on Monday or Tuesday? And depending on what day you come, one might be the men's team, one might be the women's team, but it's the same product. And so I think that's something they can start to do. Is we have gotten into this space, and this may be a little controversial, but it's okay. I'm amongst friends. We've gotten to this space where separate has become equal. And what I mean by that is we have gotten into this place where rather than creating equity in the mainstream or in the first thing, we just created another thing and said, here you go, put it over here. Which in theory and technically it was genius because of what it was meant to do. It was meant to make it separate. So we're now separate but equal. No, that's not equal. Equal is one media platform. You can save resources. You don't need 2 social media creators if you just put everything on the main page. One thing. And so I think basketball can take a look at what soccer is doing, because again, soccer is a space where women are leading the forefront and kicking serious hind parts, right? Not only in the media due to fighting for equity, right? But also because they are demanding more and better, and their talent, the product is better. Here in these United States, women's soccer is the business, right? And so everyone knows the relatability to women athletes, I think, is different. So to answer your question, I think basketball needs to take a look at soccer and the model that they're doing. And I think they need to get away from this. We will just put women over here and give you your own space where you can cultivate the conversation and be safe and this, that, and the other. No, I want to be on the main stage. Don't put me. I want to be on the main stage. Sorry if that was a lot. Those things. Let's see, there's some other questions in the chat. There's one I wanted to get on. So Here's one. What can we do about the issues surrounding the WNBA who cannot charter flights? So has everyone seen the latest information on the interwebs about the New York Liberty being fined $500,000 because the owner said, I'm going to put my team on a charter? Right. We're still learning. Again, I'm in the business of not commenting on other people's business, but from the information that I have, it's like being a student athlete, and what rules and regulations they're supposed to do is to create fairness and not give anyone a competitive recruiting advantage. So I get the making sure that everybody is treated the same. What I don't get is how what I want to happen is I would like for the league to come back to the teams and the owners with this new $75 million investment and figure out how we can get them on a charter plane, because there's no reason that Liz Chambers, being all 6'5" of her beautiful, luscious self, should be sitting in the back of a Spirit plane. Like how, like, again, when I talk about all of the barriers we put in front of women athletes, I want you to play on Thursday night. And then after the game, we got to catch this bus like right now, because we have to get to the airport and go through TSA like everybody else. Oh, and by the way, did you forget your ID? Because you can't get on the plane. I need you to hustle through the airport, get to the airplane, board with everybody else, sit in the back of the plane. We're going to fly 3 hours to the next, and then we're going to get off. I want you to hit the sheets for 2 hours, wake up, and we've got practice because we've got a game the next day. And I want you to be at the best, because if you don't play at your best, the product isn't the best thing. And then we can't get the media and the viewers and the butts in the seats. And therefore we can't get the investment. And therefore don't talk to me about your salary cap, because you're not the best product out there. LeBron James, after the game, has 4 people pulling out the insoles of his shoes. And then he gets to get on a bus led by a state trooper, because God forbid they have to wait in traffic. And then they get to the airport where their private plane is, and they've had time to shower and they've put on their fancy outfits again, because they have time and don't need to go through TSA, because the TSA actually comes to the facility. And now you get on a plane where you can stretch your legs out, because you also are 6'5". And then you get off the plane where there's food awaiting you, and you get in your, again, big bus, which is led by a state trooper, because again, God forbid you sit in traffic, and just show up at the game. You know what? You don't actually have to play, because people will just show up to see you throw baby powder in the air. Lots of barriers. Again, I love LeBron. I'm from Ohio. I was there. Love him. Akron, Columbus. It's a thing. We're cousins. Okay. I know we're at time, I think. I know there are a few more questions. Mark, you tell me what I need to do. I'm happy to shut up, but I'm happy to keep going as well.
Girl, you could keep going. I could listen all day. Dwayne, how do we have time? I know I wrote down here, I know you had a question, and then Darius had a 2-part question. I think she got to the rest of them. Do we have time for that?
I can make it really quick. I won't go on a tangent. I promise.
Okay, let me read Darius. This is a 2-part question. How do you feel about the lingerie style sports that women are competing in today? Do you think that type of sporting entertainment is demeaning to women, or something that should be promoted more and televised?
I think the issue is not the fact that there's a lingerie league. I think the fact is that women's bodies have been hypersexualized to the point that you have to consider what they are playing in. Emmitt Smith used to play football with his shirt cut all the way up here. No one asked them. They're like, oh, that's a vibe. Now it's fashion. Deion Sanders, it's a fashion. I knew a guy at the Browns who literally had to be cut out of his jersey every day because he wanted it so tight. So I don't think the issue is what the women are wearing. I think it's a societal issue that has said that women in a specific outfit are now, that's a kneecap. Woo! Don't show me an elbow either, because once you show an elbow, then it's all over. Like, oh, please don't show me a shoulder. Please do not show me a shoulder. So I think the talent is there because if you've seen, I actually had some classmates from college who played in the lingerie league. And when I tell you, I wouldn't even step foot on that field because they will truck you. The product is there, but I don't think that we as a society should continue to analyze other people's decisions on what they do. If there's a league and people want to play in it, then go play in it. You know, if you feel some type of way, and not saying that you do, Darius, but if you feel some type of way about what they're wearing or what this, then don't watch. You have choice. No one's holding a gun to your head to do it, to engage with it, right? But I think the root of it is why is what they are wearing more important than what they are doing in the product that they are putting on the field? And if you address that, then, maybe we'll see some women in the football league, the NFL.
Josh, is it a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Joshua Smith from Wingate University. So this kind of contributes to the last question. So do you feel like the portrayal of Black women, especially darker skinned Black women in TV shows back in the day, kind of contributes to how the reaction that people gave Serena Williams that time with the ref?
He said it was a quick question. So here's the thing. I think there are so many layers to your question, and I think it didn't start yesterday. And it didn't start with Serena Williams. It started way back when doctors, white male doctors, were doing surgery on Black women's bodies to figure out how they can better solve for hysterectomies. Like, it started then. What you're seeing now is a product of that, of the hypersexualization of a Black woman's body, of a woman's body. You see in your specific example with Serena, passion, dark skin. There are studies out there that show that, it's the white baby, black doll baby experiment that they did, right? And so what they found was that children equated darkness or Blackness with bad, and we equate light and white with right. And so then when you put that on a human and you hear elevation in voice, your brain has been taught to go to, that is not acceptable. She's angry. We actually did a study, and Martha, maybe you can share it with the students after it, or the op-ed that Rissa and Nicole did, that looked at the media mentions for WNBA athletes. And they literally went and counted the number of tweets across 5 different media franchises that covered the WNBA. 80% of the league is Black or identifies as a Black woman, right? 4% of the Twitter mentions went to the Black athletes. Sit on that. The media gives us the story that they think we want to hear. And so until we buck against the system and tell them we don't want that story, like, no. Does anyone know who Sylvia Fowles is? Come on, Charisma. Yeah, Charisma's getting needs an extra point. Sylvia Fowles is one of the best WNBA players. She is this tall. I'm 5'8", so it's like 6'5", dark skin Black woman in the WNBA. She is a multi-year Olympic athlete. Why isn't she making millions? So that's a whole deeper question, and that's an offline situation because there's so many layers to that, and it goes so much deeper than just today and yesterday and Serena Williams. And it's a thing. But that's a whole other conversation. Oh yeah, Joy, come on, one of the best centers in the league. Come on, Joy. Yeah, Minnesota Lynx. Oh, this is her last year. I gotta go to a game. This is her last year. I'm very sad. And so here's a fun fact. She has because we represent her worldwide because she's dope. She loves oatmeal cream pies. Like, it's the weirdest thing. Oatmeal cream pies and gummy bears, Harborough only. and she pinches. That's the thing.
Well,
Okay.
I really appreciate you being here, Laura. I think you gave us quite a bit to think about. And you know, Laura's with the collective, and if you have questions, you know, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them. Shoot them my way, shoot them Dwayne, Dr. Haggard's way, and we will make sure they get to her. So if we could thank Laura for her time today.
Thank you all for having me. And apology, I had a whole thing of notes that it was a whole thing, and we just got going. But I want to, if I can leave with just like a few parting words for you all, it's continue to do what you are doing, because the world needs to hear your voice. And you all have the collective power to really do some dope stuff if you just realize and harness the power that you have together, specifically as like a group. Like I said, the power of the act. Y'all created a whole cancel culture. Like, come on. Like, people are terrified to tweet, to comment in social media for fear that your generation will hate them and say no. And then that will be the end of their business. Like, really think and sit in the power that you have as young people. And I know, like, I'm not that far off, but still, there is an innate ability in what you all have to say, and your moral compass is so much more sturdy than generations that have come before you. And don't lose that. Please do not lose that, because when we talk about change and fairness for not just women, but all people, like, you all are going to do that, because you are not, you're not with the shits. You're not with it. And what you want to do is your answer is, but why? Why is this not fair? Why is this not, why isn't it just basketball? Why isn't it just golf? What can we remove the L before it? Why does everything have to be ladies this? Is it not the same sport? So I would leave you with that. Please challenge the system, challenge your professors, challenge the conversation, because it needs to happen. And if you don't do it, we're going to be in the same cycle. And don't get me on the metaverse, because that's a whole other thing. Don't get me on the metaverse.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all have a great day. Save the world.